Right. Okay, where are we this week? Poland, mint. Can't believe we have no hair and makeup. Did it all myself. Okay, let's dive in. So, the opening round at Fort William went hard 2 weeks ago. Oh mate, don't do that. Oh no! I mean, that was pretty fast. If you were lucky enough to witness the Fort William World Cup event in person or watch the live feed via legal means or otherwise, you will be aware that racing is as exciting as ever and there is a lot to look forward to. For example, this weekend we are going to a brand new track, freshly built, and as far as I'm aware, they've never held a major event on it. This excites me to a high degree as fresh tracks change and develop over the event, which means line choice is plentiful and varied. The construction techniques will dictate a lot of how it rides and develops, but I'm hoping for some old school tech. Fingers crossed, and we'll show you how things are looking on the first day of practice with our junior preview. To catch you up, or just to remind you of what went down on the legendary Scottish hillside 2 weeks ago, Valley Hull and Loic Bruni continued as they ended last season with impressive wins at the opening round. Bruni's was impressive due to the healthy 2-second time gap over the second place finisher on a track that is notoriously tight. Valley's win was impressive considering her team and bike change coming into this season, which quite often takes a bit of time to get comfortable with. The other standout performances in the elite categories came from Troy Brosnan and Nina Hoffman, who both pushed hard, placed consistently in qualifying, semi-finals and finals to finish in second position at the opening round. It was also cool to see Finn Isles back on the podium in third alongside Lucas Shaw on his new Canyon in fourth and Dakota Norton steering his big ol' bars into fifth. Tanya Seagrave delighted everyone with a first place in semi-finals and then followed it up with a decent third place in the final, and she stood on the box with Camille Balanche in fourth, who showed that the speed is still there despite missing most of last season. Gloria Scarsi showed that downhill might be the sport for her by rounding out the podium in fifth. Quite a few riders returned to racing from big injuries, so it was great to see Amaury Pierron going ferociously fast on track after his neck fracture almost a year ago. Benoit Coulange almost getting on the podium after his arm fracture at the end of last season was cool, and Miriam Nicole back racing after dealing with rough concussion symptoms and a severed thumb ligament pre-season. We can't forget about the juniors, who delighted fans with racing on the actual final race day alongside the elites, which is a positive change from the format used last year. Heather Wilson took the win in the junior female category against some stiff competition at her first ever race, and Asa Vermette did the same, showing that his potential is definitely real with a super fast run that scored him the win. It wasn't all smiles for Asa Vermette and Nico Mullally's Frameworks racing team during their visit to the UK. While travelling south en route to the next round in Poland, their vehicle was broken into and their race bikes and spares were stolen. This is devastating for any team, but it must have been extra painful for the Frameworks team, who are a small fledgling company that have just started manufacturing their own frames designed by Nico Mullally. Everyone who saw the social post wondered if they'd be able to get bikes sorted in time for the next race. And I'm glad to say Big Boss and Nico flew home, sourced enough material to get the team racing, and they will be on their bikes in round 2 in Poland. Talking of small teams, how about some news for the one-rider teams, the privateers? I've heard from a few riders that an expected change to the UCI points system has not gone into effect. UCI points are awarded at sanctioned events around the world and are used to rank riders on a global scale. They are different from UCI standing points, which rank racers at the World Cup Series only. Crucially, the worldwide UCI points are the criteria used by the UCI to determine if a rider is allowed to race a World Cup. Riders need 40 of these points, and they are notoriously hard to get and maintain as they expire 12 months after you collect them. World Cups are one of the events where these points can be gained, and it used to be that every rider that qualified and advanced to the final received points on a sliding scale. When that semi-final was introduced last year, it was thought that if a rider passed through the qualifying round and advanced into the semi-final, that UCI points would still be awarded. Last year, this didn't happen as the points, as is defined by the UCI rulebook, are only awarded in the final run, and it led to riders like Adam Brayton not being able to compete last year. This year, riders have formed privateer teams and paid the fees to circumvent this issue, but some riders are still going it alone. I can't actually find the source on the rumour that UCI points were going to be awarded for semis, but it looks like it was just a rumour. In other news, it looks like the Norco Race Division team has had a rocky start on the rocks in Scotland. Greg Minnaar was looking super impressive on track all weekend with his competitors remarking on his speed. Unfortunately, this didn't convert to a good race result, with Greg having a bizarre and heavy crash on the upper sections of the track. What we didn't see on the live feed was that Greg had already taken a heavy slam and separated his shoulder further up the mountain. My guess is that his shoulder injury caused the second spill when his shoulder gave way. The surprising news is that Greg is intending to try and race in Poland. This means that the grade 3 shoulder separation and chip bone isn't affecting him too much, or that he feels like he needs to race. Drive to compete can come from many places, internal and external. Let's hope it's coming from the right place. Having seen the social posts of him testing out the shoulder on his bike, I'll be surprised if we see him on track in Poland. But when he does get back between the tapes, I am excited to see the GOAT competing for wins again. Round 1 of the Downhill World Cup in 2024 was our introduction to the Fox aerodynamic speed suit. This tight-fitting integrated jersey and pants combo is supposed to create a more aerodynamic body form to cut through the air and get to the bottom faster. It's a development from the Moto one-piece kit that debuted this year, which was changed to fit within the UCI rule that requires a separate jersey and pants. Riders who wore the speed suit definitely claimed some great results, with Nina Hoffman and Tanny Seagrave landing on the podium while wearing the speed suit. However, the winners still wore traditional kit, which honestly is pretty tight-fitting for most riders already. A technological leap in aero it might not be, but it'll definitely get some riders and teams thinking about what improvements they can make to their aero package going into Poland. Looking in more detail at the new track in Poland, the UCI released a teaser showing some features of the track. A blend of jumps, berms, and fresh open undulations in the trees on steeper sections of the hill looks good, and a mix that should hopefully provide some great racing. The last time we had a new track and a new venue was in Bielsko-Biała last year, and that one had some drama when the junior event was cancelled due to adverse conditions that made the junior event too dangerous to safely proceed. This caused an uproar, as downhill is primarily a skill-based, adrenaline-filled sport that thrives on the challenge and shovelfuls of adrenaline, confidence and bravado. It turns out the main issue was actually medical access on the poorly prepared B zones next to the track to evacuate a casualty should there have been an accident. It wouldn't have been an issue if it hadn't been a fresh track with soft dirt and heavy rain. What's the forecast for this weekend? Heavy rain on qualifying and semis day? Wonderful. I'm sure lessons were learned and we will enjoy some wild racing this coming weekend. So stay tuned for all the Pinkbike coverage that'll be gracing your screens in due course. Do not forget to adjust your Pinkbike Fantasy League teams before the cutoff on Saturday. And also stop complaining about the value rebalancing. You do realise everyone is playing with the same rules, so it's the savviest or maybe luckiest player that will still win. No whining. Get the info, get your team together and get good. We'll see you in Poland. Right, are we done? Kids aren't sleeping next door this time, so I can actually enunciate.